What's up, grinders? Welcome back to the channel. Guess what we're going to discuss today? Language learning. I know we've been doing a little bit of that recently, haven't we? Okay, well, we're going to respond to a comment that was left under this video right here, how to use Anki for language learning plus programming. Now, this was a video where I was teaching how to use the tool Anki, a simple SRS tool, okay? And I just walked through the process of what I like to do. I didn't talk about, everything I do with language learning. It was just basically Anki. And I split it up into three parts. I went, there's a speaking component, a reading component, and a listening component. This is how you can do it because you guys have all been demanding an Anki tutorial. Now, I knew straight away after I made that video that some people are going to have some qualms with the fact that I was using AI to generate sentences. I've seen these comments before, but generally my response is, you're overthinking it. Yes, I'm using AI. Yes, AI is not perfectly natural, but realistically, that is like worrying about the most minor of details before you have even got the broad strokes. So think about it like you're learning to paint a scenic landscape, okay? You've never painted a scenic landscape before. So you're sitting here and you're like, okay, I gotta paint a sun, I gotta paint some mountains, I gotta put some trees in here, and I need to put a seagull over there shitting on a car. I don't know how to paint a seagull. I don't know how to paint feathers. I don't know how to do the little claws on its feet, and then just start stressing out about the claws because, you don't want to start painting them because if they come out wrong, then it's going to screw up your whole artwork. Bro, you haven't learned how to paint a sun. Why are you worried about the claws of the seagull? Okay, that's how I see these things. First, get the broad strokes down. Once you're good at that, yes, everything will look slightly unnatural and bad, but the more you iterate on it, the more you do it, the more you can focus in on certain aspects and clean those up. Don't worry about the claws of the seagull before you're able to paint the goddamn sun, okay? So, we're going to respond to a comment here, which kind of follows along that logic. Now, this is not me calling the person out. This is just me making a video based on this comment. You guys giving me comments actually spawned so many ideas in my head, so I do appreciate it. Personally, this seems like a bad idea. Chinese and English are languages I was born with. I tested out the text-to-speech app, and while it sounds decent, it definitely wasn't perfect. So, I'm just going to say one thing straight up. If you're using text-to-speech, you have already accepted the fact that it's not perfect. Everyone knows text-to-speech is not perfect. If you're looking for a perfect text-to-speech engine out there, I don't know what you're doing because they don't exist, at least not at this stage in human history. Now, they are generally in the 90 to 95+% range. Yeah, they may sound a little bit mechanical. Maybe they'll screw up some words here and there slightly. Maybe like the sentence structure will be like they'll put like a random pause somewhere. It's not quite perfect yet, okay? We accept that. But the benefits massively outweigh the disadvantages. The benefit being is I can literally generate a audio file for a sentence that I've got no audio for. That's one of the benefits, okay? So first up, that's what I want to say about that. Now, a great example was one of the other comments in this video where someone said, hey, why don't you just clip the audio from that guy rather than using, saying text-to-speech for his sentence? Well, when he said his sentence, he actually halfway through changed his mind, then changed his mind back. So there was like this random little stutter in the middle where he introduced a new word, which if I'm practicing the whole sentence, I don't want to practice that random little stutter because humans, we make that mistake, okay? We say things halfway through, change our mind, sometimes go backwards. Like I wanted the original sentence without that component within it, okay? So I'm not going to take that sentence and take it into an audio program, cut out that little, no, I'm just going to run that through an audio, like text to speech. Same thing. Sure, it's not going to be exactly like him, but it doesn't really matter. You could tell that it was machine spoken. Likewise, the sentences you generate are also likely slightly off from being natural. I'm guessing he says likely because he's actually not too sure himself, but it's possible. Similar to how one could possibly tell if an essay was AI generated. Now, this is an interesting thing. You guys have all read AI generated websites, emails, all this type of stuff before, right? It sounds AI generated, not because it's bad, as in the language written is bad. Generally, the language is actually better than most people write. The issue is it writes in a certain style, and we all recognize the AI style. It's kind of become, ambiguous, whatever the fucking word is, okay? It's noticeable to pretty much anyone because it writes in a certain style now, and people go, that is the AI style. For example, the EM dashes, everyone recognizes the overuse of them, okay? But is the language bad? Is it actually grammatically incorrect? No, okay? Not for the big languages. It's most of the time actually correct. More correct than most people can actually write at this point, okay? So yeah, you may come away if you use a ton of this, and this is only in the worst case scenario. Let's say you only learn from Anki. You may come away like talking a little bit like a clanker, but you're going to be completely comprehensible. You may make one slight little mistake here or there, but still 100% comprehensible, okay? Like if I could walk away talking like ChatGPT in Chinese, bro, I am better than fucking every hyperpolyglot on YouTube who's tried to learn Chinese. Just straight up. Because it's written so goddamn well, okay? But yes, it is still affected as an AI by being a little bit unnatural. But realistically, that leads me into the next part of, is anyone natural sounding who's learning another language? But we'll get to that in a moment. I think the issue here is that with Anki, it takes quite a lot of time, especially considering they have multiple sentences per card, which makes the issue worse. If you spend an hour a day doing Anki, you're going to be reading and repeating sentences over and over. When your sentences are unnatural, even by a small margin, the constant repetition is likely to start to train your brain to speak unnaturally. The same applies to audio. You're learning unnatural sounds. The fact you have so many sentences for a single card is also amplifying this effect. The wider range of content you get, the less likely you're going to sound in one specific way. When you have 5 slightly unnatural sentences for each card, it just makes the chance of you getting used to unnatural sentences even higher because your brain is constantly trying to adapt 5 sentences per word, all of which are likely not natural. Now, instead of your brain seeing native content, 1 unnatural sentence, it's seeing native content in 5 unnatural sentences, and the 5 ones are going to be repeating over and over, and therefore, you're going to sound unnatural. So here's what I'm going to say about this, because I have good experience in learning with Anki and without Anki, okay? So I'm going to refer to both here. Now, first up, with Anki, if the majority of your time is spent with Anki, I'm going to do a hot take here and say you're doing language learning wrong, okay? Yes, Anki is a powerful tool. I don't know how many times I need to say this, but it should not make up the majority of your time when you're learning a language. It should be a portion, 30 to 40%, like let's say max. When I was younger and more hardcore, I would be more to the 40% range. But now I've realized that, I need a bit more input, so I'm going down. I'm pulling that back to like the 30% range. And that's what you should be aiming for. So if you're doing an hour on Anki per day, that means you should be doing, like 3+ hours of input on top of that. That way, everything you're learning in Anki and priming your brain for, you've actually then using with the language, you're hearing it constantly. Your brain's been primed by Anki, now it's being cemented. All those definitions, that you can only pick up from context are now being pulled in from the natural content. So again, Anki is like, it draws a mark in your brain, like a crosshair for the actual language when you hear it. So it goes, yeah, oh, that's the word I know. And it connects it up, okay? That's what it's meant to do. You're not meant to try and learn an entire language from Anki. Now let's talk about the naturalness thing here. The concern being I'm going to step away sounding like ChatGPT. If I did actually sound like ChatGPT, that would be way better than my current state in any language I speak, probably, okay? Even so, English. So I'm not too concerned about that. But let's dive into that a little bit, because what's the alternative here? What can we do to avoid this? Well, I guess we could go a full input-based approach, where all we do is just watch natural input. Does that mean you're going to cut out people who are non-natives of the language? Because like if you're just watching full input and then some Indian guy pops up and he's speaking English, and like you're doing full input for English and he's speaking English. Oh, I can tell he's non-native. Oh, I can't listen to him because, he's going to like infect my language. Like, where do you draw the line, basically? Do you go, well, okay, I only deem Australian English to be the true English. I'm going to pick my own for this example. But, you could take it to the extreme and go, no, it needs to be Sydney English, So it's like, where do you draw the line on what is quality and what is not, okay? Because obviously, the Australian English is slightly different to the British English, slightly different to the American English, which is then slightly different to, English that's spoken in different regions of Africa, or even in India itself, okay? So like there's many different variations out there, and with time they become very, very different, and this can all affect the way you speak, obviously, if you're doing a lot of input. So I guess you could just go to the major players and just watch all their content and just do that and don't speak because you want to make sure you understand the language. I feel like we're almost stepping into ALG territory when we do that, aren't we? What happens after 1,000 hours of ALG? For those who don't know, that's automatic language growth. It's actually a theory I've been testing. Do you then start speaking in a natural way? Because after all, you've only been getting specific type of content, right? No, you don't. You basically just start reskinning your native language with whatever language you're learning in some way. And the sentences that you first start producing, they're unnatural. And then even if you keep away the Anki, the AI, all that, and you just keep watching content and you only speak with people who are natives of the language, you're going to cement bad habits. And you're going to have to go back and rework those. And those bad habits are going to be unnatural in the language you're learning. Now, you might be thinking, Evildea, you're taking it to the extreme with the ALG. Why can't you then just go sentence mine books? Well, you can. It's going to take you so much more time because you've got to find the right sentences, right? The whole point of my system here is just to get a lot of words into my head and to understand their different meanings based on the type of content I'm watching. So I guess I could just grab a sentence from a book, and then if I want more examples of it, scan through the book looking for that exact same, structure that I want and put that in. It's going to take so much time. It's just a time cost issue now, okay? Well, you could then, I guess, just go with tutors. But have you ever gone with a tutor before? When you're speaking with a tutor, what happens, guys? Like I've done a lot of tutoring myself, and I have different degrees of tutoring based on what the student wants. I will correct your absolute fatal mistakes where I cannot comprehend you, or I will correct those mistakes that, you keep regularly making, but I do understand you. Or I will correct literally nothing because you don't want me to correct anything. You just want to practice and you want to keep cementing whatever mistakes you're making. Because even if you go with a tutor and you ask them to check all of these sentences for you, which is going to be very, very costly, or if you've got a native available, okay, they may give you correct sentences and you're going to read that and go, great, that's how I say this. I'm going to go practice it now, but it only works in the context in which you learnt it. So there are certain things where you can say it multiple different contexts in English and you can get a perfect translation for that context that you're in and not realize that you can't reapply that to another context and then you're going to use it in that. Guess what? You sound unnatural now. So this whole fear around not sounding natural or picking up unnatural stuff, this is worrying about the minor details without yet having got the broad strokes of the language down pat. No matter what method you take out there, okay? I can't think of literally any method that you take that you're going to basically form natural, coherent, perfect sentences from day one, or even long term, okay? You need to practice, iterate, fix over. And you see this, everyone loves to go to the child example. We've all seen children, right? They all screw up their language. It sounds unnatural a lot of the time, okay? And guess what? Some children are still screwing up by the time that they get to school, that they go into literal therapy, speech therapy, to correct their pronunciation, to correct the way that they speak. Like, this is one of those things where you're never going to be perfect, so don't try to be perfect. Work with what you got, get there as fast as you can in like a realistic manner. I'm not saying like, a short period of time. Get to the point where you're able to communicate and understand, then fix your major problems. Once you fixed your major problems, then go to the more minor ones and the minor ones. Realistically, you only have to worry when you stop caring. That's the point at which, anything unnatural is going to like be cemented, or as that magic word always pops up in language learning, be fossilized. So don't stress about these things. Yeah, sure, AI is not perfect. Probably better than any materials I'm going to get my hands on. Realistically, I could refer to a book, I guess, but then I might be writing in the style that doesn't even fit real life. I don't know, because I'm not yet fluent in the language. So don't worry about it, guys. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you all in the next video. If you're not there, I will find you and annihilate your entire lineage. Lineage. That's a new word. B2 English for the win.